Skinny as he got that fire, yo.
No, they coming for my soul, I can't let them have it. I be feeling way too low, get too high to manage. I just part this in, so can't help but panic. Sticking to the plan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
All right. Thank y'all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What's up, everybody? I'm 2Flight.
Hello.
What's up? What's up?
Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me again.
Yeah, man, I am super excited to talk about your new album, Hi, I'm 2Flight, which, real fun name, but we'll dig into that for a second. For those of y'all watching from the beginning, you probably heard the intro track, which is Understand It, featuring the old Lord Lawrence.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
shout out to the Lord himself.
Shout out, Lawrence.
And y'all came out the gates swinging with that track.
Yeah.
I mean, the beat is wild. I mean, Lawrence was doing his thing and you two vibed together really well. And like your delivery was just so slick on that track.
Thank you.
The
I
beat,
appreciate it.
yeah, dude, the beat was going nuts, but you were right in there. You were like a little bit wavy, a little bit on the gas. Like you kind of found this really cool vibe for your delivery.
Yeah, that was actually the first track that I ever made for the album. So
Okay.
Yeah,
So like, did you know it was going to be like the first track right away?
yeah. Well, when I wrote it, I was like, this is a hit. Like I knew, I don't know, just everybody around me was like, this is the one. So I'm like, yeah, I just knew from immediately. I was like, I gotta put this as the first one because like I gotta come out strong on the album.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that is usually the first question I put here is what made you decide to pick that one first? But I mean, it's very obvious.
Yeah,
The track is
it's
kind of
just
heavy.
I think it's a crazy song. So
Yeah. How did that track come about?
I don't know. So me and my producer, we just were making music one day, and it kind of just happened. Like we were just making music, and like I just knew I had something special immediately. So
Gotcha. And then did you hit up Lawrence? Did Lawrence hit up you? Like how did he get on the track?
So we were actually on tour at the time. He took me on my first tour ever, and I was playing it in the car, and he liked it and stuff. And a couple of my friends were like, "You got like get Lawrence on it." So I'm like, "Ooh, that would be like a good feature." So
Yeah.
it kind of just happened organically.
Oh yeah. Well, that's rad. Well, it definitely, like I said, super solid track to open up on.
Thank you.
But let's go ahead and let's check out. Excuse me. Let's go check out another track, shall we? This next one's called Whitney Houston.
In a fast whip, and I'm swerving out of road. I'll be with my bros, only sticking to the code. Y'all be out of sync, I be looking like some clones. Looking up to me, from my music to my clothes. I've been on fire, I'm lit. I cannot wait, no trick.
All right, and we're back. Now that track, that's the 2Flights we know and love. That's like the sound that I grew up knowing you with. That's the sound that I think everybody was familiar with. But while it's a little less wild than that first track, it's still, the delivery is tight. I mean, you have a very melodic presence in your sound in general, but this one's it's super consistent. You've got a couple effects change. It's all very like engaging. And I think it was a good equalizing track to come right after the first one. Like, it balances it out. It sets it all back to zero. And it's just, it is a solid track in general. So this far into the album, you're two for two.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you have anything you'd like to share about that track?
I don't know. I just like the bounce. Like this one has like a crazy bounce with it. So when I made it, I was like, I really like the pockets I was hitting, like everything, especially in the verse. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, very much so. Now, for the next question then, how did you pick the name of the album?
So I don't know. It's kind of like two versions of it. well, there's like 2 different meanings. So kind of was like a joke at first. Like, so I would go up at shows, I'd be around all my friends and I'd be introducing myself and I'd be like, hi, I'm 2Flights. And then my friends were like, you say like, hi, I'm 2Flights a lot. You like, so people would be like, hi, I'm 2Flights. Like, and then it started like people at shows would come up to people and be like, hi, I'm 2Flights. Hi, I'm 2Flights. So kind of just, I was like, nah, I got to make an album called Hi, I'm 2Flights. And so like the second kind of meaning of it is like, I feel like this is like my first like real like album that I've like really put a lot of thought into, and like this is like I deleted a lot of my older like old music and stuff. This is like the real like first like real album I feel like I'm putting out. So it's like, hi, this is me. This is this is 2Flights. This is like, you know, this is me.
Hell yeah. And actually that's exactly what I was going to say. It is for being your first like, as you said, kind of real album.
Yeah.
It is your introduction. You were like, hey, this is what I'm coming out the gates with. This is what I want to be my foundation. So in a way, you are introducing the world to the 2Flight.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea behind it.
Yeah. And I remembered you, even from your last interview, that, you know, the whole Hi, I'm 2Flights thing is very much a bit. So I thought that was clever.
It plays off that.
Yeah, really good way, good of you to get in front of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's clever. It's a good way to attach yourself to your fan base. I really like that. Yeah. But now let's go ahead and let's get on into this next track then. This one's called Magic.
Swerving lanes through traffic. I'm gonna cut with a bad bitch. We going at you past tense. I'm rolling in like the magic. Oh yeah, we going up as a sign. I'm pulling up at a rate. She wanna go on a date. She wanna go to my place.
All right, and we're back. Now that track was a lot tougher. I mean, first of all, the bass on it is fat. The low end on that track, the low end of the whole album, I'm going to say this a few times, but I'm getting in front of it now. The low end on the album in particular is super solid, but that one just had some weight to it. And your delivery was so cold. The melodic elements were super tight. And I mean, like I said earlier, your melodic structure in general is usually really, really put together. And I think this track exemplifies that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Pretty full on, yeah. Do you have anything you'd like to share about it?
I mean, as far as you're talking about the bass and everything, this whole entire album is produced by Skinny SC, my producer. So it's like, I feel like it's like, even though it is my project, I feel like it's our project. Like we did a lot of creative like stuff together. It wasn't just me working on this. So shout out Skinny SC. He did a lot of work on this album too, as far like he mixed everything. So a lot of the choices we made at this album is, and like all the mixing is him. So
gotcha. And actually, coincidentally, you are on point with the questions here. My next question was going to be: is it all recorded and mixed and mastered in the same place?
Yes, yeah, we did all of this in my room. We made all of this in my room. It was just me and my friend making music.
Hell yeah! See, there is something really special about having one producer for a full album like that. That goes a long way just in continuity. And then B, to have it be somebody in the room with you where you could be like, hey, can you change up this for that? Can you do this for this?
It was very, very hands-on.
Yeah.
Everything was super, super hands-on with it.
Was it something where like y'all were going like kind of back and forth, like you would write some, he would make some, like you would write, or like did he have full beats and then you guys got to work on your parts?
It was like we pretty much just worked on everything together. It was like we'd make the beat together, like he'd start cooking or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I want this, and then I'd write something, and then he'd be like, oh, we'll change this here, oh, we should put this here, and then I'm like, all right, well, the effects, I want this, we should put this here. It was like that throughout the whole entire album with everything, cover art, visual, like literally everything.
Gotcha. Okay, so so it was all literally made to order in real time.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, that explains a lot as far as like the tightness and the continuity of the whole album goes, because that is very apparent. Yeah. Also, his tag is definitely on a handful of things. So
every single song.
But actually, that segues well. Let's go ahead and get on into this next track, which is called Lose Control, featuring Skinny SC.
Let's lose control. Ay, I'm in my zone. Ay, can't lose it all. Ay, I'm standing tall, and they want me to fall.
All right, we're back. All right, now that track is rad.
Thank you.
Big fan. I mean, you and Skinny, which, you know, shout out Skinny SC again. definitely locked in for that one.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that you two have very different sounds, like sonically, but you still have like complementary deliveries. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't out here doing like death metal growls, but it was easy to distinguish the two of you separately, which was nice. And I mean, the beat was a little bit quicker on this one for sure. Definitely a little more fast paced than everything else we've experienced. But that just kind of set up really well. Like it was kind of nice to move the needle in that direction. And the track is really unassuming in the beginning. In the beginning, it's like you've got the hats, but you've almost got nothing else. And then it just opens up from there. And it's super hype. Like it doesn't have a ton of change ups all the way through, but it didn't really need it. You know what I mean? It just, it like grabs you right from the beginning and takes you all the way through.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. This is like more type of like a club banger type, like song.
Yeah, very much so. That one definitely one I could see people just getting hyped to in general.
Yeah.
Now for this next question, then we're gonna kind of dig in a little bit. Can you tell us, like, because I know you guys said you were working on the, like, you know, he was building the beats, you were in the room, but when it like came to like deciding what you wanted, was it like every day you were just like, I'm in this mood? Did you have like a vision for the direction of the album?
Yeah, we definitely had a vision, but most of it we were kind of just like in a room making music. There was thought behind it, but it wasn't like we were just two people making music. We kind of just let like what we were feeling decide what was what we were gonna do.
Okay,
and then it just kind of happened. But we definitely had like a vision for it. We wanted to make every track super quality. Like we had like a general vision of it, but as far as the actual songs, it like just whatever happens, you know.
And were there any, I mean, I imagine there were, but like, were there a small handful? Were there a large handful of tracks that like didn't make it onto the album?
There were a couple. There was like two, I think, that we decided to not to put on there.
Gotcha. So you guys weren't just like making a new track every day. You were really like,
it was a very, very thought out. And so many revisions through, like, so especially during the mixing process, there was so many revisions and so many things that we really nitpicked about everything to like make it perfect.
Gotcha. Okay, well that makes sense, and like I said, it's very apparent.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump forward a little bit. We're gonna kind of skip a track here, and we're gonna move on to this next one, which is called "That's Just How It Goes." All right, we're back. That was a solid track.
Thank you.
Like, it's just a bit past the halfway point in the album, so it's got a great energy for the middle of it. You know what I mean? Like the beat is big, your delivery is a bit bigger, it's more direct, and in a way, the vocals in the chorus have this like, it's like an anthem horns element to it. You know what I mean? Like it just has this like big rise when they happen, and it really like it gets you going. It gives you this big jolt of energy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have anything you'd like to share about it?
Not really. I mean, this one is like a banger. Like I just heard this, I was like, this slaps.
Yep. And that's kind of what I felt like. I was like, this doesn't exactly move the needle on the narrative of the album, but it's just good.
Yeah.
It's a real good track. And the one that happened before it was also really, I'm blanking on it. Is it THC? Is Before Magic?
I'm gonna be honest. I think so. Maybe.
Sorry, That's Just How It Goes is the one we just listened to. Yeah. But that track was also hype. And so like to come from that one into this one in its own way, I thought was a really cool experience.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I messed up all my stuff here. Oh, gotcha. Okay. So for this next question then, let's big picture it a little bit.
Yeah.
What made you decide to want to do an album?
I feel like I was dropping singles, and I feel like I needed like a body of work to like really show. Again, with the Hi, I'm 2Flights thing, I needed like people to be like, oh, this is 2Flights. This is me, you know. I needed like a real album to show the case, like, you know, what I can actually do, I feel like.
Gotcha. Okay. And like, I mean, I guess, I just want to dig into it a little bit further. Like, what made you decide to at least like do the full body versus like, like EP1, EP2, EP3 kind of thing?
I mean, again, just wanting like a full body, like a quality body of work, I think. I think I felt like it was just right. Like it just felt right. I was like, I need like an album, like a full cohesive like thing with visuals and just everything. I need like a full cohesive project that like listeners can kind of dive into and kind of be immersed in more of a world instead of just like some singles, you know?
Gotcha. Okay. I love that. This show is a big fan of albums in general. Like, I get why everybody feels they have to go the single route and like game the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. But there's an importance in the creation of albums, hence the reason for this whole segment. And so I'm always curious what makes people decide to go that route in today's music making climate.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. Now let's go ahead and let's jump on into the next track. This one's called Side Girl.
Shawty, you been on my mind. Tell me I'm wasting my time, girl. Blind eyes seeing the signs. Lights and I've been on the grind, yeah. Tryna make me a minute get signed. But I need you here by my side, girl. My side, girl. Girl, you way more than a side, girl.
All right, we're back. Now that track was a vibe.
Thank you.
That one was one, like, I mean, it's smooth, super smooth. I haven't said it enough times, I'm sure, but the bass on it is huge. Like, that was the thing. I think that might be the bass heaviest track on the album, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. It's hard to tell. But yeah, like the low end on it is super tight. And I mean, but shout out to Skinny one more time. Dude makes some good beats.
Yeah.
But that one, it was definitely like the most laid back track on the album.
Yeah.
I think it kind of gave you kind of that space to kind of for a second, and that breakdown in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Skinny snapped on that.
There's a couple moments that we're going to talk about that are similar to that, but that one was one where I was like, oh, okay. I need to go back and hear this one again and make sure that I bring it up for sure. But before we get into the next question, is there anything you'd like to share about that track?
No, I think that was a nice breakdown of it. But yeah, I think that was just like like you were saying, kind of like the room to breathe. It was just the idea behind that was just like a chiller track to kind of let you digest the album a little bit more. Yeah,
very much so. But it's nice because it's not the one you feel like you don't have. I mean, it doesn't feel like a track you'd want to skip just because you've gotten to the point. Like you can still listen to the whole thing without being like halfway through and being like, all right, I get it. Hence why I think that bit in the middle is a really good, like, there's something here.
That's also why it's placed in the area that it's placed, because it's like getting kind of towards the end of the album, but it's like slowing it down a little bit.
Oh yeah, very intentional. I love that. Yeah. All right, now let's go ahead. We're gonna next question. And this one, because we're getting closer to the end here, this is probably the densest question in the interview.
All right.
But now that it's, I guess by the time this comes out, it will have just come out a couple days ago. So everybody's heard it. Everybody's listened to it. It's blowing up on everything available right now. What does the album mean to you? And then how do you want other people to connect with it?
Man, means this album is, I feel like this is like my baby. This is like, I've worked on this for so long. This is like, I don't know. Like, this is the first body of work I've really felt like super, super confident in, like, that it's just super cohesive, and everything that like I put into it is like very quality, and everything is exactly how I want it to be. And every single choice I made from this is like exactly how I want it to present to people. So it's hi, it literally is hi, I'm 2Flight. It's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
That's what it means to me, is like, if there's one album, to listen to, and if you want to get an introduction to me, this is like the one thing that I want people to see is this album. Like, this is me, Oh
yeah. Now we're going to jump to, like I said, we're getting near the end, so we're going to jump to the second to last track here now.
Awesome.
And this one's called Whoa. All right, and we're back. Now that track was rad.
Thank you.
Big fan. I mean, that low key buildup in the beginning comes in super hard, and from there it just gets tougher and tougher and tougher. The beat is a little on the chaotic side actually, but like in this really cool way where it's not like overwhelming. That like there's like an element of it that almost feels like there's like an alarm going off in the background, but without any of the annoying parts of an alarm. So it just kind of has this cool rise and fall to it. And I think it's a really cool, at this point in the album, you could easily just phone it in. You could have been like, oh, it's the second to last one.
Yeah.
Everybody's really going to want to get to the last one. Let me just put a thing here. But it doesn't feel like a throwaway track at all. Like, it feels like you put in the effort. You gave a really strong performance. And it's the change up at the end of that track. This is the one I really wanted to shout at Skinny for.
This is actually my favorite track on the whole entire album. If you ask me, this is literally my favorite track on the whole entire thing. I love this song. I think this is probably one of my favorite songs I've ever made. Okay.
So I know before we sat down and did this that you had told me you had not checked out any of the tuned in episodes, but you have answered every question that is coming up as it's about to come up, because that is usually the question for this point in the interview what is your favorite track? So that's really cool to hear, because it makes sense. It is definitely one of the coolest tracks on the album.
Yeah.
Please, do you have anything else you'd like to share about it?
Yeah, I don't know. This is, like I said, this is my favorite track on the whole entire album. I feel like my favorite part of the whole entire album is that verse. After the first hook is that verse there, where I like go from like high and then into like the kind of like lower normal voice. That is like my favorite part of the whole entire album. I feel like the kind of, I don't know, the beat and stuff like catches it in a very like theatric, like cinematic way. Like, I feel like it could be in like a movie. And everything I said on that verse is like was super, super true at the time I was writing it. Like I was saying, like different state I touched down, like, and I was like on tour at that time, so it was like exactly what I was doing and like how I was feeling at that moment, and like everything about it is just perfect to me.
Hell yeah, yeah. And like I said, dude, that bit at the end, that change up. Big fan. Big fan. Yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Now we've got one last track to go. Got the final track on the album. Would you like to look at the camera and tell everybody what it's called?
It's called Survival, featuring Skinny SC.
He ain't gang and I didn't know it. I'm with the gang, you know. I'm with the guys. Think I ain't lame as hell. I think I would die. Yeah, I'm in my element. I let it get high. I know this euphoria won't last forever.
All right, we're back. Now that was an interesting ending to the album. I'll say this: it might be one of the most perplexing final tracks I've had for this segment yet. Because the intro, it's very heady. It's very like, you've got that whole spoken as like, I almost thought you were going to go the boom bap route for a second when I like first heard it open up. But then the track actually drops in, and it's fat. It's fat, but it's not crazy. Your delivery is a lot more spaced out than it is on the rest of the album. The elements of the song, like the air within it, kind of had this like, kind of like how earlier how you kind of set up a break, but this one felt different. There was more emotion in this one. There was a depth in this final track that, like, even though you weren't like going wild in it, it was really interesting to listen to. So I thought it was a really cool way to end it. But like I said, just different than any other ending track I've gotten from the segment yet. So it was a really fun one to sit down with.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can you tell us anything about it?
I think it really meshes well. Like the bounce on it, like you were saying, kind of lets you breathe a little bit. And then like Skinny, like, like he lets it breathe. And then I come in with the hard kind of rapping, even though it's like two different kind of styles. I come in with the hard rapping, and I feel like it meshes together really well. And I just feel like it's a solid track. Yeah,
very much so. Now, for this bit, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna share my thoughts with you for the whole album. And it goes a little long. I'm just letting you all know now, but let's get into it. So as this is your first official album, it's a big moment. We want to acknowledge that. And you obviously did not take that lightly. You put in a lot of work, and it shows. That says it right on there. So even before we had this, like, it was very obvious. And then through this conversation, it's been very clear that you had such a solid level of care, such a solid and like element of intentionality in it that like there was no way it was not going to be a great album. So you did that in spades. But even aside from just the presentation, the arrangement is super solid. All the tracks work great together, but they all stand on their own. That's the bigger part, is any track off of this album could viably be a single, and none of them would be disappointing options. And like, honestly, I genuinely had a hard time picking the two tracks to skip. And one of them's still going to end up in the outro. So really it's just down to the one. But like, as I was going through each one, I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll skip the next one. Maybe I'll skip the next one. And then I realized I was 2/3 of the way through the album. I was like, I have to go back and pick some.
That makes me happy. That makes me happy.
It's rad, man. It's it's basically a no skip album. It shows.
That makes me really happy as an artist to hear that. Yeah. So thank you.
Of course, man. And the progress, like, I have heard your older music. Yeah. We have talked about it before. So like, I knew where you came from, and hearing this stuff.
That was definitely the idea too, is like having like, this is kind of like a newer, like developed sound for me. This is more developed and like developed sound for me, Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, dude, it feels so well put together.
Thank you.
And like, I feel like if I put it on shuffle, it wouldn't even hit the same way, but it would still be just as cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, dude, this is definitely, the progress is real. The quality, the experience is real. You did a great job. It's something you should be very proud of.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Now, I've got one last question to go, but before we do, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. Go ahead and look at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me on all streaming platforms at 2Flights with a $sign at the end. And on Instagram at 2.flights, and pretty much any other social media platform at 2Flights.
Oh yeah, easy enough. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Huge shout out Skinny SC, like I said again, produced the whole entire album, huge part of this album, so shout out Skinny SC. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, then with that being said, like I said, I've got one last question, but before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second. As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. Now, the normal final question, but we had to modify it for this.
All right.
What is an album that inspired you during the making of your album? Or like, what was something that was like heavy in rotation at the time of making it?
I'm gonna be honest. I was listening to like, as we were making the songs, I was listening to them and like, I was literally listening to like my music kind of, but kind of, I don't know, like as a vision kind of, I wanted to really throw people into like a universe, like as far as the album. There's lots of good albums that do that. I feel like that throw you into an experience, not just an album.
Yeah.
I feel like Good Kid, Mad City does that. There's like lots of albums that do that, and I feel like I wanted to create more of like a world in it instead of just like, oh, here's an album. You know? I wanted to create a very cohesive and like an experience.
Hell yeah. I love that. All right. Well, that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Dude, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm 2Flights.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.